Hey, what's up, everyone? It's me, Anthony AKA IceyLalo, and so this is gonna be the story about my first boyfriend, and I decided to call the video My Prince Charmz because his nickname is Charmz. That's how I met him, and I won't say his real name because it's just out of respect for privacy. Sorry, I got something in my eye. Yeah, so this is a really interesting story because he made a very big impact in my life, good and bad, but I just wanted to, just kind of tell you what happened. So once upon a time, so you know how I was telling you in my last video how like we were struggling, my family and I were moving here and there, and it came a time where I kind of didn't know where to, because my family was kind of like bouncing here and there. So I know that I wanted a stable place where I could finish school and everything. So I ended up moving in with my grandparents, which was also with my best friend, my aunt, because she lived with my grandparents. So I moved in with them, and it was good. It was good, and then it wasn't good. But anyway, so while I was living there, there was a time where there was this thing called the party line. And I don't know, some people are familiar with this, some people aren't. But basically it was like this phone number you could call. It was like a chat line, I guess. And it was kind of like, it was a MySpace days. This was like 2009. I was 19. Anyways, so one night I was on the party line, and it's funny because they have a straight party line, they have a gay party line. And hold on one second. I would be on the straight party line just because it's funny, I have a particular type of guy, that I like, and I really am drawn to like the straight, masculine, guys. And so I met Charmz on the straight line, which was funny because, I guess he was like me, looking for, other straight acting guys or whatever. But anyways, so there's like rooms, and you push pound and it goes to the next room, and there's a lot of people talking, and then like it was just weird. But anyway, so I was talking, and I said, I was like, hello, is there any, I don't know I forgot what I said. Something like, I was trying to talk to, like, I hear guys talking, I was like, hey, what's your name, what's your number? And they'd be like, some of them would get pissed off. They'd be like, what the fuck, like, fucking faggot, get off this line, there's a gay line. Like, they were just talking shit or whatever. And then Charmz was like, hey, he's like, get my number down. So then he was trying to give me his number, and then people were like interrupting, like trying, like cock block basically, so I wouldn't get his number. But I got it down, and then I ended up calling him, or I think, this is what happened. So he gave me his number, but I couldn't get it down, so I told him to get my number. He got that down, and then it was not even my number. I didn't have a cell phone at that time. I was living at my grandparents' house. So I gave him my grandparents' house phone number, and it was like midnight at this time, and he called, and the phone rang, and like at that time, like, there's house phones like all over the house, so all of them would ring, and I was like, oh my god, I forgot. And I tried to answer it real quick, that way it didn't ring like for a while. I didn't wake up my grandparents or anyone. But yeah, so we started talking, and we just hit it off really good. And it was weird because like when you're on the party line, it's kind of local, but for some reason it, like, I don't know, it picked up Vegas somehow, because he lived in Vegas. He was in Vegas at the time. And yeah, we just kind of hit it off. Like, we were just talking, and it was just good conversation. It was cool. And we started kind of talking on a daily basis, and I ended up getting a cell phone, and it got more intimate between us, and so it came a time where I was like we would talk about meeting each other, like if it would be possible we could meet each other some way, somehow. And he said he had family here in Arizona, and it was weird because at this time, my best friend, which was my tia, she was talking to some guy who happened to live in the Vegas area. I think that's how it went, yeah. And so I had told my best friend, because me and my best friend would tell everything to each other. she would know. Like I would tell my best friend about Charmz. You know, I'd be like, "There's this guy, man. I would like to meet him in person. Like, what if we go to Vegas and we could meet him? You know?" And she's like, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, we could do that." You know. So I remember, like, you know, us planning to take a trip to Vegas, and I would tell Charmz, I'm like, "Yeah, we're gonna go over there, me and my best friend, and you know, and get to finally meet." You know, it was I think maybe about a good 2 months had went by, and we were talking consistently on the phone. And so it was weird because we made the plans to take a trip over there, and the weekend that we were supposed to go, something bad happened with my best friend, and she was really bummed out, and she kind of just lost the mojo to like want to go, you know what I mean? And I was really like upset. Like I was upset because she was going through whatever she was going through, and I also upset that I had a feeling that, you know, she was just gonna cancel the trip or whatever. And she saw how bummed out I was too, and she's like, "You know what? Forget it." She's like, "Forget whatever I'm going through." She's like, "Let's just go to Vegas for you." She's like, "I know you want to meet this guy Charmz, so let's do it." You know, so we almost didn't go, and then we ended up going, and like, you know, and it's weird thinking of it today. Like, if I wouldn't have went that day, I wouldn't have went through all the stuff I went through. You know what I mean? Like, it's weird how things happen like that. But anyways, so yeah, we went and we stayed at the Luxor Hotel, which was like, it's the pyramid with the light coming up from the top. And we had like this really nice suite and everything. And yeah, so I remember the night we got there, he was, yeah, so we got to the hotel, checked in, whatever. It was nighttime, and then we're getting ready because we were gonna go pick him up and then bring him back to the hotel room. And so then he was like hanging out with some friends or whatever, and then so we went to go pick him up. And I remember, like, we pulled up like somewhere on the street, some house somewhere in a neighborhood, and then I was like, "I'm here," and he was like, "Okay," and he's like, "I'm nervous." I'm like, "I'm nervous too." And then he walked up to the car, and like, it was so funny, it was so awkward. Like, he got in the car, like he was in the back, he got in the back seat, and it was a Mustang, so it's like, you know how like it's 2-door, and like, so I have to get out for him to get in. And we didn't even look at each other in the eyes. He just got in the car, and like he was on his phone and I was like on my phone. Like, we were just super awkward, shy. And my Theo was like, "Are you guys gonna talk or what?" You know, and she would make conversation to make it less awkward. And sorry, I'm so used to looking at the screen. I'm trying to focus on the lens. But anyways, so yeah, so we went back to the hotel, and my best friend ended up going out to see her friend that night. So it was just me and him by ourselves in the hotel room, and we're drinking and we're listening to music and we're just talking, you know, and it was really like, it was already like we had a good connection already over the phones, and it was like times 10 when we met in person. It was like way better than what, you know, sometimes it goes that way and then you meet them in person and you're like, "Oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be." No, it was exactly what it was going to be. Like it was literally, it was love at first sight, you know. I felt that way, and it was a magical night, and I'll always remember that. And I know it's crazy how things are now, you know, but I will get to that. But yeah, it was a magical night. Like, it just felt unreal. And I remember I kept telling him that, I'm like, is this real? And like, you know, pinch me. And he's like, "Yeah, this is real," you know. And I remember my best friend, she'd call, she's like, "You guys okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we're good. We're just chilling, listening to music," you know. And she's like, "All right." She goes, "Well, I'll be back late." And I was like, "All right, that's cool, whatever." And yeah, I remember he stayed the night there, and we cuddled, and it was my first boyfriend. It was the first time I ever kissed somebody. I kissed another guy, you know. It was the first time I was held in somebody's arms like that, you know. And I was 19, and I was like, because I always say that I would not say he was my first love, because I feel like Gabe was definitely my first love. Gabe, if you don't know who Gabe is, he's in my previous videos. It's the guy that who helped me realize that I'm gay when I was 12 years old, and we became good friends, and we were still friends at this time when I met Charmz. And I even had told Gabe, and I about Charmz, and he was just happy for me, and he was just like, oh man, I really hope this works out for you. You deserve the best. You deserve to be loved. You're a good guy. You know, Gabe was always the most supportive person I had ever had in my life. Anyways, so yeah, it was such a magical night, like, and I remember waking up that morning. Sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my voice. Let me just get some water. Hold on, pause. All right, it's recording. Okay, so yeah, I remember waking up that morning, and then I think we took him home, and then me and my best friend, aka Tia, like, we went just around Vegas shopping or whatever. And then that night we linked up again, me and Charmz, and it was, I think it was his friend's party. They're having a birthday party that night, and then so I went to that, and that was super fun. It was another magical night I'll never forget. And yeah, I honestly had the best time of my life, and I thank him, and I thank my Tia for taking me there. Like, after that, Vegas was still to this day is my favorite city. I love that place. I think it's just a magical place, you know. And Vegas will always be a special place in my heart, especially the Luxor, the pyramid. But yeah, I remember leaving, you know, after that party, and coming back to Arizona was like heartbreaking. I'm like, oh my God, when am I ever gonna see him again? You know, is this gonna work? Is it not gonna work? It was hard. But yeah, I came back, and I noticed, like, we slowly stopped talking, and I know most of it was because of me. I just felt like I couldn't do the whole long distance thing, you know, and I wanted someone to be there, you know, and that just wasn't the relationship I was looking for, you know, even though I was really falling for this guy. And yeah, things got weird. Like, I remember, like, he started, I don't know if it was like, I think he realized that I was making a decision to not work through it, so he was kind of pushing me away in a way, because he would come up with these, like, his friends were playing like this weird game testing. I mean, when you're 18, 19, you're not like fully grown, obviously. You don't really take relationships that serious. I think now that I'm 28, it's totally different. But yeah, like, he would have his friends call me, or his friends would call, yeah, saying these weird things that, oh, Charmz has a girlfriend. Supposedly he's bisexual, which I do believe he's bisexual. Like, yeah, he's with this girl and he's talking, so maybe you guys should probably break up. Well, you know, they would just kind of encourage us to break up. So we just stopped talking, and then some time passed by. I don't know how long it was. I would maybe say like maybe 3-6 months passed by, and he got a hold of me, because we kind of stopped talking. Like, it was like we talked maybe like once or twice a month, like, as friends, and the thing kind of just died out, you know. And so I remember he called me one day, or he texted me or messaged me or something, and told me, he's like, hey, I'm coming to Arizona, and I'm gonna be staying with my family that lives there. And I'm like, okay, you know. And I got like happy because I get to see him again, you know. And I was hoping maybe things would change between us, you know, maybe we could start something again here. So he did come here, and at this time I think I already had moved out. I was in the process of moving out of my grandparents' place, and you know, I was living with my mom, who was still living with family. But yeah, he came to Arizona, and I remember my uncle took me to go pick him up at his house. It was his mom's house, and this was the first time that, so we were gonna go pick him up to bring him to my aunt's house, not my best friend, but my mom's sister. And it was like anyway, so we picked him up, we took him over there so that I can introduce him to my family. And at this time, like, my mom, as far as my sexuality, like, she was already coming to terms with accepting it, but I don't think she fully accepted it. And I feel like this is another thing that I thank God for meeting Charmz, is because I feel in my heart that the reason my mom had accepted me completely was because of Charmz. I feel like when she met Charmz, it was like, okay, I can see that this is who my son is, and I want him to be happy, and I want him to be loved. And I think that Charmz, in a way, kind of helped her find a way to accept me, you know. And that's just how I feel, though, you know. It could be something different. But anyway, so yeah, I introduced him to my mom, my sisters, and my little brother, and my, you know, my cousins and my aunt and uncle, and everyone loved him, and he loved everyone, and it was just a really cool bond. And I remember that night we went outside, and we, you know, just me and him talked about like what we're gonna do, what's gonna happen. And he's just like, I want this, like I'm here, you know. And I'm just like, okay, well, let's do this, let's make this happen, like don't go back to Vegas, like stay here. And he's just like, okay, let's do this, you know. And so we started again, you know. It was like, and all those feelings just came rushing back, like if it, like the same feelings that I had when I was in Vegas when I first saw him there, you know. And so it was good, everything was great, you know. It was like we had more amazing, crazy, great, like he brought out like the crazy side of me, you know, like not crazy in a bad way, but just kind of like the reckless, I don't know, just living life to the edge kind of person. Like, because I'm always a person that's like afraid to do things, like, oh, I don't want to do that because we're gonna get in trouble, or, you know. But with him, it was just like, fuck it, let's do it, you know. Let's have fun, let's do this, let's do that, you know. And I loved that about him, you know. I feel like he was my Prince Charming. He was like, you know, it's funny because that was his nickname, Charmz. But yeah, so, oh, okay, so let me add this in. So I had never came out to my dad, and I know he kind of knew. I don't know if either my tia, which is his sister, had told him, or my mom told him. Somehow he knew, but we never, me and my dad never talked about it. Like, we weren't even talking as much at that time anyways. But I remember I wanted to, me and my dad, so my dad was basically talking to me about moving in with him, and I wanted to do that. And I was slowly, you know, visiting him more often and often, and I was over there. So I remember one day, it was one night, I just kind of came out to my dad. You know, we were outside of his place, I remember this, and I was like, Dad, I don't know if you know, but I'm gay. And he's like, yeah, I know. He's like, I know, and I love you, and you're my son, and I'm here for you, I support you. And he gave me a big hug, and I was just like, what the, I thought completely, I thought it was going to be a totally opposite reaction, you know. I thought he was going to freak out and, you know, flip out on me. And it was weird because it was like the opposite. I thought my mom was going to be the one that was going to be like emotional and supportive and hug me, but she was more, I think she was more afraid, you know. And my dad was like the more, you know, and what really shocked me was like, you know, when I told him, I was like, and so after I said I was like, I'm gay, I was like, I have a boyfriend too. And he's like, okay, well, let me meet him, you know. And I was like, okay, like, let's. So I remember I brought him over, Charmz, I brought him over to meet my dad, and they clicked right away too. Like, my dad liked him and he liked my dad. And I moved in with my dad, and Charmz stayed with me there too. And, you know, at that time I had dropped out of school, and I want to talk about that in another video. I was in my senior year, I dropped out, I didn't have enough credits. I did this whole summer school thing, and it just didn't work out. But there was something good that came out of that, which I will talk in another video. But yeah, I wasn't working. I was just kind of like living life in the moment at that time, you know, which I don't regret. I loved it. But yeah, so things were great, you know, and it was like that for a while with me and him, you know. And I remember my best friend would be nervous because she knew how I was with Gabe, like how obsessive I was with Gabe and in love with him, and she was afraid. I remember she would always say, like, I can't imagine what it's going to be like when you have your first boyfriend. I hope that you take things like slowly and you give him you get a chance to know him. And, you know, because she was like, I hope you don't turn this into a Gabe thing. She would tell me that. And unfortunately it did turn out that way, because he did decide to go back to Vegas, and I was hurt because it was like, it wasn't like he was gonna go back to visit. It was just like, oh, he just changed his mind. He wanted to live over there, and I was just like, wow, like okay, like you're gonna choose that over me, you know. And so he did. He ended up moving back over there, and I told him like, you know what? Then I don't want nothing to do with you. I don't. I was so hurt. I was just like I don't want. Like we're done, you know. I don't want nothing, no friendship, nothing, no communication, nothing. And he's just like, okay, whatever, you know. It was what it is. He had his mindset, and that's what he was gonna do. So he left, and you know, some time passed by, and I remember one time one night I was at my best friend's house, and I stayed the night there, and I was on MySpace. She was asleep and I was on MySpace, and I saw something on I don't know if it was my mom's or my sister's account, like on their profile or feed or whatever it was, MySpace thing that they had. But anyway, basically the status said something like, oh, my son is back, or my brother is back, Charmz, back in Arizona, we miss him, we love him. And I was like, what the fuck, like what the hell is this, you know? So I looked into it, and then it was Charmz. They were talking about Charmz, like he was back in Arizona again. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, what the fuck? Like, I was like, that hit me in my heart like really bad, because my family knew how I felt about him, and they knew how hurt I felt when he left, and they knew that I didn't want to have any communication with him anymore, and it was hurtful to see that, you know. It was just like, what the fuck, like. So it broke my heart, literally. I felt so deceived, and it was just an awful feeling. Like, it was just like my heart was just like squeezing. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but I remember the next morning I was with my tia, and she was going to like a dentist appointment or something. I was with her, and we were in the car, and I was like, at that time I didn't have a job, so I was like I was like her personal assistant. I would help her like keep up with her appointments and stuff, and I was writing stuff like in a planner, and I just couldn't focus that day. I was just so like angry and hurt and sad and distracted about what was happening, and I didn't tell her, and she says something about, she was just like, okay, what do we got to do next after this? Like, I was like in charge of like running errands and stuff, and I was like, I don't know, I forgot. And then she got mad at me. She was like, well, focus, dude, like, I thought you had this written down or something like that. And then I got mad at her. I'm like, you don't know what I'm going through right now. I just went off, and I was like, my mom, like, Charmz is back, and my mom and my family are all like, have him there. And I was just, and she was like, what, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. And she knew how I felt about him and everything, and she was like, oh my god. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I went off of my mom. I was like, I told her awful things, and she was just like, oh my god, what did you say, you know? And I told her all the things I said, and she's like, oh my god, like. And it was crazy. It was unfortunate, because my family had thought that, because of the bond of relationship I had with my best friend, they thought that she was telling me to tell these things to my family, to tell my mom off, or to tell my sisters off, or whatever. And it wasn't that at all. If anything, it was the opposite. She was just like, she's like, she's like, calm down. She's like, don't tell them anything more. Like you don't say that to your mom, you know, like, that's your family. You're supposed to love them, respect them. I was like, no, I was like, you don't understand. Like, they're not respecting my decision. They're not appreciating, like, I don't know how to explain it, but, and it was so tough. I was just like, and from that, like, I stopped seeing my family. I didn't see my mom or my sisters for a while, and I told them, I was like, you know what, if you guys are gonna have Charmz in your life, then I don't want to be a part of your life. I was like, obviously that's the son you want, that's the brother you want, so I don't want to be a part of it, you know. And I was like heartbroken, and my best friend was there for me, my tia, and Gabe was there for me too. He was always just supporting me all the time. When I called him, he would answer, and he'd be like, are you okay? Or he'd call me, text me like, are you all right? And so it got to a point where it was like a whole year I didn't talk to my mom or my sisters, and it was like one of the worst years ever. And it's strange, because it was one of the worst years ever, but it was almost, I wouldn't say the best years ever. I don't know how to explain it. It was like the worst time but best time, because at that time, well, let me just explain the whole high school thing. Okay, so I dropped out my senior year. I went to summer school. I didn't have enough credits, and so I ended up going to register to get my GED. I did that, and I passed, and not only did I pass, but I earned a 1 semester scholarship at the college that I had took in the GED exam at. So that was the cool thing about that. And so while this bad stuff was happening and all this other good stuff was happening for me, I was living with my dad, and I was starting to exercise, work out, became like a thing for me. It was the first time I ever really I took working out seriously. And yeah, it was just me and my dad, and my dad lived in a place where it was kind of like desert, just kind of away from the city. That's the type of person my dad is. So it was really peaceful. Gosh, it's 25 minutes and I have like so much more to say. I wanted to do like a 2-part thing, but I'm just kind of... Anyways, let's just try to finish this. So, yeah, so good things, bad things were happening at that time of that year. I didn't talk to my family for a whole year, unfortunate. Anyway, so I was wishing bad, evil things to him. Like, I hated him. I was just like, oh my God, like, I just want something. I would pray to God, like, just take him away from my family, you know. And a whole year had passed, you know. I didn't talk to my mom and my sisters. And one night I was talking to my sisters, and, you know, just saying that I missed them and I loved them. And I asked about Charmz, and they were like, well, Charmz is, and he's locked up, you know, he got arrested, he's in jail. And I was just like, wow, okay. Like, a part of me was like really like relieved because I had wished something bad to happen to him, and then another part of me was just like I felt awful for, you know, saying that, and something did bad happen to him, and I heard the pain in my sister's voice, like they were bummed out that he was, you know, locked up. And it was just weird. And then slowly me and my mom started talking again, and my sister started talking again. And I might have to make this a 2-part thing because it's already 27 minutes. But yeah, so we got our relationship back, and I ended up moving back in with my mom and my sisters, and they were still living with family. And I was still... So basically, like, they would still write him and you know, and call him and put number on, or put money on his books or whatever, and put money in the phone so he could call them, and they'd write back and forth. And living with them and seeing all that was still hurtful. You know, it was just like I was going through like just like a bad time. Like, I got into like a bad depression. I was really drinking more, you know. There's just so many bad things. Like, I was getting addicted to sleeping pills, and it was just, I remember I couldn't take it no more, and I had a meltdown. I feel like I'm skipping some story in my life, but I'm trying to like figure out, I'm trying to get to like where I'm at today. And so basically over time, like, so I was living with my mom. Sorry, I'm like everywhere. My mind's like twisting because I'm trying to like hurry up for the last 2 minutes of the video. But so I was living with them. I was uncomfortable because they were still supporting him, writing him, and everything like that. And then I ended up moving out of there again, moving out from my mom's and sisters because they were doing that, and I wasn't happy with that. And I lived back with my dad, and from there I realized, me and my best friend were talking one night, and she told me, she was like, do you still love Charmz? And I was like, I do. And she's like, have you ever thought that maybe your family isn't doing this to hurt you? Did you ever think that, okay, I'm gonna have to like pause it right here because it's the last minute. I'm gonna have to do part 2 of this. So this is gonna be called My Prince Charmz Part 1, and I'll do another video, My Prince Charmz Part 2. But yeah, so this is probably one of the greatest stories ever, I think, because it's a lot. But anyway, so yeah, just subscribe, comment, like, share my videos. Let me know what you guys think, what's your feedback. And, you know, always remember, learn to love yourself. Amate, you know, I feel like that's the key to happiness. I truly do believe that with all my heart and soul. But yeah, so we will continue the story on the next video, which will be sometime next month. But thank you guys for everyone that's watching, and I will see you guys on my next video. I'll probably be doing it sooner than you guys think. That way I can finish the story. Bye.